On that night, Constantinople was not sleeping. Behind its mighty walls stood an ancient city breathing fear, memory, and pride. A city that had survived centuries of war, ambition, betrayal, and prayer. Many armies had stood before these walls, many kings had dreamed of entering this city, and many had failed. For generations, Constantinople seemed to speak to every army that approached it. Others have tried before you, and they could not pass. But in the year 1453, a young ruler stood before this legendary city. He was only 21 years old. He did not look at the walls and see the end of the road. He looked at them and saw the beginning of history. His name was Mehmed, son of Murad, and the world would remember him by another name, Mehmed the Conqueror. Mehmed was not born into a peaceful world. He was born in Edirne, at the heart of a rising Ottoman state, powerful, ambitious, but surrounded by enemies and internal pressure. His father, Sultan Murad II, was a man of war and politics. He understood that a throne is not carried by blood alone. It is carried by strength, authority, patience, and the ability to make decisions when others hesitate. When Mehmed first sat on the throne as a young boy, he learned something that would stay with him forever. Being the son of a sultan was not enough. A ruler had to command respect. He had to inspire his soldiers, silence his rivals, and make his enemies think twice before moving against him. His first experience with power was difficult. He saw how quickly enemies could gather when a ruler appeared weak. He saw how fragile authority could become when the state doubted its own leader. And deep inside him, something began to form. Mehmed did not want to be remembered as just another Ottoman sultan. He wanted to become the ruler history could not ignore. Constantinople was more than a city. It was a symbol. It was the capital of the Byzantine Empire, the heart of Eastern Rome, and one of the most important cities in the medieval world. It stood between Asia and Europe, between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, between the memory of Rome and the future of the Ottoman state. For Muslims, the city was connected to an old dream of conquest. For the Ottomans, it was the key to becoming more than a rising power. Whoever controlled Constantinople did not simply control stone walls and streets. He controlled a bridge between worlds. Mehmed understood this. He knew that Constantinople was not just a military target, it was a question of legitimacy, power, and empire. To take it, enthusiasm was not enough. Faith was not enough. Ambition was not enough. To conquer Constantinople, a ruler had to turn a dream into a plan. When Mehmed returned to the throne after the death of his father, he did not move like a reckless young king. He moved like an engineer of siege. He did not only ask, "How can I reach the walls?" He asked a deeper question, "How can I make the city alone before I strike it?" So he built Rumeli Hisari on the European side of the Bosphorus. This fortress was not just a building, it was a message made of stone. A message to Byzantium, help will not reach you easily. And a message to Europe. The new Sultan is not only dreaming of conquest, he is building the road toward it. By controlling the Bosphorus, Mehmed began to tighten the grip around Constantinople before the siege had even started. Then came the cannons, massive weapons, louder and more terrifying than anything the old walls had been built to resist. Byzantium was protected by the memory of centuries. Mehmed arrived with the tools of a new age, stone against gunpowder, ancient walls against giant cannons, and an old empire facing a young sultan who refused to turn back. On April 6, 1453, the siege began. The Ottoman army stood before the walls of Constantinople. On the other side, the defenders of the city prepared for what might be their final struggle. This was not a simple scene of victory waiting to happen. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI was defending the last remains of Byzantium. Outside the walls, Mehmed knew that failure would not be just a military defeat. If he failed, his enemies would say, "A young sultan dreamed beyond his ability." But if he succeeded, History would say, here, the conqueror was born. Days passed, the cannons struck, the walls shook. The defenders repaired at night what had been destroyed during the day. The Ottoman soldiers waited. The city suffered, but Constantinople did not fall. The siege was not only a war of weapons, it was a war of nerves. Every passing day made the same questions heavier. Could the city survive again? Would help arrive from Europe? Would the Ottoman army lose patience? Would Mehmed's own commanders begin to doubt him? In moments like these, leadership is not always found in loud speeches. It is found in endurance. Mehmed understood that if he retreated, the wars of Constantinople would not be the only thing left standing. His authority would be damaged with them. So he did not retreat. And when the expected path seemed blocked, he searched for a path no one expected. Ottoman ships were moved over land toward the Golden Horn. Whether seen as a military operation, a psychological shock, or both, the meaning was clear. Mehmed did not wait for the enemy to leave him a road. He created his own. That was the mind of the conqueror. Not only courage, not only faith, but the ability to think where others saw only impossibility. At last, the siege reached its final moment. In the Ottoman camp, soldiers prepared for an assault that could either create glory or break an army. Inside Constantinople, the people could feel destiny approaching the gates. This was not only the night before a battle, it was the final night of an empire, and the beginning of another. In the darkness, Mehmed stood before his men. The question was no longer whether Constantinople was strong. Everyone already knew it was. The question was different now. Would this city remain impossible, or would tomorrow turn the impossible into memory? On May 29, 1453, the final assault began. The Ottoman soldiers advanced toward the walls. The earth shook beneath the sound of footsteps, steel, smoke, and shouting. The city did not fall in one simple moment. It fell after centuries of survival, after walls had been exhausted, after an empire had grown old, after the world had changed, while Byzantium struggled to remain what it once was. When Mehmed entered Constantinople, he did not enter as a young ruler who had won a battle. He entered as a man who understood that the world after this day would never be the same. In that moment, Byzantium came to an end, and Ottoman Istanbul began. Conquest does not end at the gate. The hardest question after victory is this: what do you do with it? Mehmed understood that the city he had taken could not remain broken. He began to transform Constantinople into a new imperial capital. He brought people back into the city. He restored life. He turned it into the heart of a state that wanted to become greater than its old borders. After the conquest, Mehmed became more than an Ottoman sultan. He saw himself as a ruler of empire, a successor to Roman power, a champion of Islam, and the builder of a new political world. But glory always has a price. Building an empire is not done with poems alone. It requires armies, money, taxes, strict decisions, and sometimes harsh ones. And here, the real Mehmed appears. He was not an angel from a book of moral lessons, and he was not just a warrior searching for personal glory. He was a great ruler, and at the same time, a difficult one. One of the biggest mistakes is to see Mehmed the Conqueror only as a man of the sword. He did not dream of Constantinople as a military trophy alone. He saw it as the capital of a new mind. In his world, scholars, engineers, thinkers, commanders, and administrators all mattered. Knowledge was not decoration. It was part of power. A sultan who understands the map understands war. A ruler who understands languages understands his enemies. And a leader who brings together the sword and the book does not build a battle, he builds a state. That is why Mehmed was frightening, not only because he carried the sword, but because he knew when to use it, when to put it down, and when to build a city after it. The conquest of Constantinople was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of an age. After that day, The Ottoman state was no longer the same. Europe no longer looked east in the same way. The balance of land, sea, trade and power had changed. One city fell, another capital was born. One empire ended, another rose. And a young man of 21 entered history, not as a prince who tried, but as a conqueror who succeeded. Perhaps this is the real meaning of his story. It is not only that he dreamed of the impossible. Many people dream. It is not only that he believed in conquest. Many people believe. His greatness was that he did what only a few can do. He turned the dream into a plan, the plan into a siege, the siege into victory, and the victory into a state. That is why when we remember Mehmed the Conqueror, we do not remember him only as the man who captured a city. We remember him as the man who changed the meaning of the city itself. Before him, Constantinople was the impossible dream. After him, it became Istanbul. In history, there are rulers who inherit the world as it is, and there are rulers who force the world to redraw its map. Mehmed the Conqueror was one of the second kind. A young man before an ancient city, a dream before impossible walls, faith before fear, and a plan before what others believed could never be done. When the siege ended, the world did not only hear the sound of cannons, it heard the beginning of a new age. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and join us as we uncover more lives that changed history. And tell us in the comments, who should we cover next?